see behind me a big trailer load of shutters. Been wanting to put some shutters in the house, but shutters are really expensive. So what I did is bought an entire house full of shutters from a big mansion out in the other part of our city. And we're gonna cut and reshape these down to the sizes I need. When you get a lot of shutters at the same time, it is doable because you end up with a lot of different sizes, and a lot of times you can make it work. So why would you do this? It's about $10,000 worth of shutters back there, and I got them for a couple $100. So that's the big why behind it. Takes a little time, but saves a lot of money and looks great at the end. Thanks for watching. We'll show you how it goes. A couple of important things to consider as you are starting a project like this. Number one, you want to check some of the sizes on the shutters, and you're trying to find some widths that will work. In this case, I bought so many shutters I wasn't super concerned about it because I can mix and match, and I got different heights and different widths. I got probably 50 shutters in all here. Also, I picked up all the frames along with it, and having those frames is a really big deal because I'm going to cut and reshape those frames. Saves a lot of time and a lot of money over having to make all custom frames. So what I'll do is I'll first go through and make lists of all the shutters that I have, all the sizes that I need for the home, and then I try to find the best matchups. Like for instance, that big frame right there is the right width for one of the main windows in the house, but it is the wrong height. So I'll start there, find the best fits, best matchups, and then I kind of work my way through the house that way. At the end, they're getting more and more custom, but you want to find the best matchups first because that's going to save you a lot of time. Also, you do have to be careful as you're considering the sizes and stuff. Some of them have the crossbar in the middle, and the crossbar gets a little weird if your window is a lot shorter. You don't want to end up with, you know, a big section of shutter and then a crossbar and then like one or two right at the top or the bottom. So I consider that in as I'm kind of figuring out which ones are going to go where. I prefer to keep the crossbar pretty much in the middle. So if I did have to use this one in a window that was a lot shorter, I would probably cut it top and bottom, but I try to avoid that in general because I do lose some of the strength in that process. So what I'm going to do then is a lot of times I'll take a taller shutter, since I have so many to choose from here. I'll take a taller shutter where I won't end up needing the crossbar at all, and I can just use the entire lower section and basically reshape the top or reshape the bottom. I try to avoid moving the crossbars and moving both top and bottom. I usually just try to work from one end, and that makes it work out a lot nicer, keeps the structural integrity of the shutters, and looks great. So one of the first things I did is I went through the house and I mapped out all the windows that I want to put these shutters in. And then a few pages back, I went ahead and mapped out all the shutters that I have. These are actually the frame sizes, not the individual shutters. And what I'm trying to do there is find the best matches to start out with so that I can end up with less custom work for the windows that are closer matches. And then as I get to the end, usually I end up with a little more custom work, a little bit, you know, kind of stranger shaping of them. But I try to avoid taking off the sides of the shutters unless I have to. I try to keep them the original width, and I just try to work with heights on the frames and the shutters as much as possible. And that makes it a lot faster, and also just makes it a lot more seamless in the process. So this is the first window that I'm working on, and what I found is that I have a frame that's actually pretty close to the correct width, which within 1 or 2 inches. It's a little bit narrow, which is good. So I'll be able to just use that in here, but the height is way off, and so I need to get it down to 36 1/4 approximately. So I'll start with the frame, shape that out, then I'll go ahead and measure once I get it all installed for the doors, and we'll cut those down to fit the frame as well. All right, so this is the first frame that we're working on. The width on this one is correct for that large window that I'm working on, but the height is way off. We're going to 36 3/8 probably on this one. The windows, you know, with your windows, you gotta kind of measure both sides. A lot of times the drywall is not completely straight. This house is plaster, so pretty straight, but we're about an 1/8 inch off on either side. I'm gonna cut it right at 36 3/8 and then do a little test fitting. So that's gonna take almost half, actually maybe more than half of this height off of it. We're gonna put the bottom back on, put it in the window, get that frame all fitting good, and then we start on the process of shaping the doors down. The reason I chose these doors is because they're really tall, and I can actually use an entire section of them, pretty much the top half of them, without having a crossbar anywhere in there. So I'll just be able to cut the bottom and move the bottom of them up. So I just measured the entire height of the frame, 81.5, took away the height that I want it to be, 36 3/8, and then I ended up with 45 1/8 that we're gonna cut out of those legs. The good thing is these frames can be somewhat disassembled, so I'll go ahead and disassemble some of it and then just cut the legs and reassemble it. So now I marked on the leg, if I were to take out 45 1/8, that got me here. I just measured from one end of the leg there. I did a little double checking by measuring the base that it's got on it, which ends up being 3/4 of an inch. So I just laid that back out there and then measured it all the way out just to double check before I start. So I'm gonna just go ahead and remove the screws out of the top here that I'm not gonna end up leaving in place. All right, and then we've got the base off here. It's got one just nail shot through it there. Just peel that off a little bit. So if you come up on these nails that are just shot through it, when they were attaching it to the walls, instead of trying to pull them out with your hammer, what you can do is just take a pair of pliers and actually just roll and pull it through, and that will save you a lot of work and destroying the other side of this. It ends up looking a lot better most of the time. All right, next I've got this first leg here on the chop saw. I'm not going to take off the molding on this. I'm actually going to try to cut just the leg at its proper height, and then I'm going to cut the molding from the other side to its proper height, just in an effort to save more of this in really good condition, because it's all, you know, that molding is all nailed and caulked all the way along there. So I think I can do it with no problem. All right, and I'm going to cut them all just a little bit on the high side because of the unevenness of that wall, and then if we have to, we can always come back and adjust them a little bit, but I'd rather it be a little long than a little short. The difference that we have in that little step is just 3/8 of an inch, so I'm just going to measure 3/8 of an inch longer onto this lower section here. I'm going to make a second cut there that will actually make them line up the way that I want them to. Little step up on the base, I just cut it at the full length I wanted first, notched it up for that little step, and then I'm just going to take my saw and actually cut right along here, cut that little notch out, and then the base will fit back on real nice. All right, so we got that one reshaped, screws are in it. Now it's the correct size. Going to go ahead and take it in there, throw it in the hole. All right, so we've got this one reshaped, changed the height on it, and as you can see, fits really well in there. The width was correct from the beginning, so we just changed the height, and now it fits that window nicely. Now we're just gonna reshape those doors down to be the correct size. So here's what we're starting with. This big giant one. I don't have any windows that are that tall, so I'm gonna start with this one. I'm actually starting with it because, as you can see, there is a center brace here, center bar going across, but I can use this entire bottom section and get all that I need out of it, so I won't end up with a center bar in these windows, which I don't want because they're rather short. And this is what we're going to. So we're going to take that big giant one over there and cut it down to this size right here. So I'll show you how that's done. We're going to be cutting it right here on the compound miter. I have a carbide tip blade on there, and I'll be wearing safety goggles, so I will cut right through these sides. These do actually have an aluminum tube that goes through them because these are PVC blinds here. Some of the shutters I got are wood and some are PVC, so you just have to kind of know the construction on them. So what we're going to do is first cut the side rails. I'll cut both of those to the right height, and you do need to make sure that you know which side is the top and that you match all these together, because there is a top and there's a bottom. On these plantation shutters, the top is the end that has the groove built in right here, and you can also tell by the hinges, because the hinge pins are always going to go in from the top. So we're going to go ahead and measure this one out and cut it off, and I'll show you how to reassemble it. It's not really that hard. It takes probably 20-30 minutes per shutter. So the only thing I'm going to strip off of this to work on it is just this one hinge right here, which is in my way. And then I'm going to mark both these rails at 35 3/8, cut those off. I'll actually just cut right through all of this, and then I will pull that apart and then start rebuilding them. All right, so we got one cut, and I'm gonna cut the other side. Now, I had to flip it over. Just be careful. Usually I cut on the outside of my lines just to make sure it's a little bit hair long in case I need to trim it up or anything like that. And I don't want it to be too short. So I'm gonna cut on the outside of that line. But since I flipped it over last time, I was cutting on this side. Now I need to cut on this side. Just be careful that as you flip them over. But you can see I just cut right through that actual, piece of the shutter right there. And it's gonna cut the crossbar and everything. It'll end up in two pieces. If you wanna see the construction there, you see we got an aluminum square piece of tube inside, and then all this is just PVC, a couple different pieces assembled here. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is remove this piece here and remove this one here. So next part of this process is that I need to get this bottom panel out of the other side that we're not using. And I'm not gonna use most of this. So what I'm gonna do is just cut through the rail here to get all this other stuff out of the way. And then I'm gonna slice kind of up along the sides here so that I can peel off the vinyl. And I wanna keep this completely intact so that it still has sort of that tongue that's gonna slide into that groove on the other one. All right, now that piece is free. Don't need the rest of this right now, but I will save it, because if I end up needing something this size or shape later, it might come in handy. So, or maybe just that crossbar out of the middle. So I just stack these over to the side. So a lot of times once you get to this point, you can just tap that. You can just tap the aluminum tube right out of there. So that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, so I got that apart, got the tube out of it. Now I'm just gonna trim right along here just to release it so I can end up getting a chisel in there. That off. That opens up the ends. Now I can pretty much just start kind of tapping this stuff out. I'll put a chisel right here in this crack and pop these sides off. It doesn't take a lot. You're just kind of getting the glue to break loose. We end up with another pretty clean one, and we'll end up just kind of cleaning that up with the chisel, maybe even sanding it a little bit, but looking good. And that's what we end up with. Got that section now taken out. We'll just clean that up and trim up the other one and slide this right in. Now I've got the bottom piece already cut, but I do need to notch this little section out right here so that it'll slide into place. So I'm just gonna pull that out and cut it with my multi-tool. And so at this point, here's the bottom of the other one, which I ended up bringing the sides off of it, chiseling that little bit of scrap off of it there like I showed you. And these actually work out to be a pretty nice height. So I can just slide this one in here. I'll end up gluing it before I'm all done with this, but it slides in there and actually ends up in the right position for these to close on it. So that ended up perfect. And so that one's gonna be pretty much done. Just gotta make 3 more of those and our first set will be done. All right, so there we go, about an hour later. The first one obviously takes the longest, and then these last ones just take probably 10-15 minutes. We got 4 of them, cut to size. The only thing left to do is cut this rod, and I'll just go ahead and measure off the original ones and see what the amount of length left on it here was. I'll cut those off, shape them a little bit, glue these up, and throw them in. So I just went ahead and cut that one off real quick, and then I'll just use a wood file just to shape it up to kind of match the other end. Got a little bit of a bevel up there. So I picked up some Loctite premium construction adhesive. Lots of different glues available. There are glues specifically for this PVC, but this Loctite construction adhesive says that it will also work on PVC. All right, so we are putting these caps in. The bottoms there, went ahead and filled it with some glue on each side. And then I added 1 really small screw straight through the square tube stringer in there and into this base piece here just for a little bit extra strength. So we're wrapping up this project. We took some plantation shutters from another house and ended up cutting them and shaping them down to the correct size. The frame we did first, shortened that up so it'd be the correct size for this window opening. Then each of these shutters, they were almost 6 feet tall and had to cut and shape those down as well. And now they're in here and they work nice. They all look great. And the fit looks like these were made for this window. So it is possible. It takes some time, but it will save you a lot of money and they end up looking great. So we bought a whole trailer full of plantation shutters and we're gonna reshape them and actually do most of this house with those shutters from another house. So a great DIY project. If you want more projects like this, go ahead and hit subscribe on our channel. You can also like this video to help our channel grow. And if you have questions or if you need help with any of this, just drop a comment down there below this video and we'd love to help you out. Thanks for watching. Here that I'm doing.